The fact is this. I said it a year ago, I'll say it again because it was just raised. The Democratic Party right now, every day they wake up, it's still January 6, 2021 on the calendar, they get an electric vehicle, they get an abortion. You're out of touch with the public. This election was a rejection of wokeness, and people, every state went more red except Nebraska and Washington State. That is a sweep. That is a mandate. That is President Trump coming into office and the American people saying, please make my life safer, more secure, more affordable. Please get us out of these foreign engagements. And I think the always wrong, never Trumpers who had unlimited money cost the Democratic Party, which they say they're not even a member, another presidential election.
I've never seen someone explain so perfectly why Donald Trump won the 2024 election. Kellyanne Conway goes completely berserk in a good way on this panel of people, a lot of never Trumpers, we got Van Jones from CNN, all these people that sit there and regurgitate the same nonsense over and over again. She just sets them all straight. It's flipping amazing. But before we get into that, make sure that you're subscribed to our team news to ensure to YouTube that you're enjoying our videos so they will continually show up in your feed and so they'll push it out to more people. I'm Titus. Let's get into this video.
None of these major figures, the governors, came forward and said, I'm going to take on Joe Biden.
But there was something else going on at the time. There were articles where Democrats were saying, please dump Kamala Harris from the ticket, change your vice president. That's a parlor game that's played every time there's an incumbent president who's eligible to run for a second term. But let's all be honest, and Van Jones and I talked about this at Milken Institute in early May. Let's be honest. Part of the reason that President Biden could not step aside is people didn't have confidence in the competence of Kamala Harris. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that she has worked hard. She does speak well. The American people saw it differently. And I'm relieved to hear that very few lessons, it sounds like, have been learned by my Democratic colleagues.
Oh, wait, I'll get...
Yeah, no, she's an idiot. Kamala Harris was probably the worst pick possible. And honestly, it was an FU to the system by Joe Biden when he endorsed her because he's like, oh, you're going to push me out? Is that right, Nancy Pelosi? You're going to push me out? Bet. You know what? I endorse Kamala Harris, the most incompetent individual that has ever graced political office ever. Person who's only been selected and never elected. It's absolutely insane that she was ever chosen. Homie couldn't even put a thought together. She couldn't string a thought together. She didn't even know how to respond to questions. She did like 5-minute interviews that had questions already represented. Oh my gosh, she was like, she's an embarrassment. And here's the thing, we don't need to be roasting her like that anymore because she lost and it's great, you know? But still, it's just like, that's who y'all chose? I mean, you didn't choose. Biden, who we all know voted for Trump. Come on, let's be honest, he did. He endorsed her out of spite because, okay, if I'm not going to be in office again, she certainly isn't. And props to that. So I think we all agree Kamala Harris was probably the worst candidate in the history of our country. And thank God Trump blew her out of the water.
I'll get my turn. Oh, wait.
I hear yours, but let me just say this. Maggie, I think that this election was also about moments that Donald Trump has this sense of the culture. He just gloms onto a cultural zeitgeist and leads it. So I think him, rather than banning TikTok like Joe Biden did and Kamala Harris did, by extension, he got on it. And Forbes magazine wrote an article maybe 2 weeks ago, tops, saying of the 10 top TikToks of 2024, 8 came from the Trump campaign, 5 in the last week alone. So he's in the garbage truck, he's at McDonald's. You're watching Joe Rogan live, but then other people are watching it through TikTok. He goes to East Palestine before any official in the Biden-Harris administration, before the Secretary of Transportation, before the sitting senior senator, now the ex-senator of Ohio, Sherrod Brown. And he's honoring the police officer who's slain in Massapequa, New York on Long Island, while Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden are all at Radio City Music Hall at a fundraiser. He beats Kamala Harris to Georgia and North Carolina, where people are in pain, where everything that they've had and loved ones have been washed away, literally, and Kamala Harris in San Francisco at a fundraiser. So people see this. They know what they see, they know what they hear, and I think the big distinction in this last election, two I'll say quickly. One was the Democrats would have won if they got away with convincing Americans to believe what the Democrats told them was real and true and authentic, rather than what they saw with their own eyes and heard with their own ears, what was real and true and authentic.
That's what they've been doing, though. That's the thing. And she made so many amazing points here because Donald Trump, he utilized TikTok, he utilized these podcasters, he utilized all the things because he wasn't getting good coverage on the news. It was proven that it was like 93% negative coverage of Trump and 97% positive coverage of Harris. So if you were watching the mainstream media, if you're watching CNN, MSNBC, any of this stuff, you're going to think that Trump is the worst thing ever. You're going to say that here are the good people on both sides argument, which was debunked like a billion years ago, but they still are propagating that nonsense. And Obama was one of them too. That's literally why Joe Rogan lost respect for Obama, because he knew that he was perpetrating that lie that had been debunked over and over again. You see him utilizing the social podcasters and influencers that like had massive platforms, that had young audiences that really got to see Trump through a different lens. She's pointing out how he went to these places where people were struggling, when like East Palestine, when they had that issue with an officer that lost his life. You see him respecting Corey, the man that died at the rally where he was shot in the ear, making it about him and not making it about Corey and not making it about himself. You see him time and time again putting Americans first and always worried about what we're going through. And so people felt a connection to that because Trump actually seemed to have cared. And then in response, the other side, instead of giving us reasons for why you should vote for Kamala, it's just vilifying Trump. It's like, okay, well, I see him doing this and you're saying he's doing this. And since you're not the only source of information, you're not the only way you're not the only person who has a viewpoint on who Trump is, and we're also notoriously known for being dishonest and I don't trust you, let me look at these alternative sources. And they're looking at all these people and they're like, maybe they were lying all along. Maybe Trump is right about the fake news. Oh, who's this guy? Who's Titus Smith? Who's Xavier DeRusso? Who's all these people going around saying everything, opposing what I was told to believe by the mainstream? And then we get the results that we get. And I'm so grateful to America for actually opening their eyes and seeing that Trump was not as bad as these people are trying to say.
Authentic. Everything from a sitting president's obvious mental and physical lack of acuity, agility, ability, but even the vice president, whose official schedule that they stopped publishing a while ago had little to nothing on it most weekends and then most days. So you can't just, you can't create a candidate out of somebody who is going to eat and own all of these things. The second thing I want to say is, very quickly, I listened for 26 minutes, very quickly, is that putting Harris on the ticket, I think also sealed Biden's fate, and him thinking that he was FDR, hanging out with John Meacham, and instead of realizing you're here to be the post-COVID caretaker, you're here after George Floyd's murder. The idea that he was going to govern as Bernie Sanders, who had already been pushed out of the party as somebody who beat Hillary Clinton, folks, in 23 contests. That's a real primary opponent. And this is the election where Americans are saying, no more. You are not going to pigeonhole and narrowcast me and tell me what to think, for whom to vote, and how to feel based on my age, my gender, my race, my sexual orientation, my religion, my political party registration, my past voting behavior. And whether it's Ann Seltzer's phony poll or phony focus groups of junk saying that Kamala Harris is going to win, attacking people like Kevin McCarthy, thank you so much for having the courage in 2022, you and President Trump, and the RNC, to have run these candidates in California and New York, because without that, we would not have had the majority in the House of Representatives. You had the courage to go into blue states and go into purple districts and do that. I think they misread the mandate, Maggie, in 2022 of the midterm. A lot of those terrible candidates fell short. They should have. They weren't great candidates. But the Republicans won 3 million more of the popular vote than the Democrats. They misread a mandate for Joe Biden, who wasn't even invited on the campaign trail. They sent out Barack Obama, not Joe Biden, to campaign for candidates. So you've got to, we have to level set with the public and stop pretending that these counties didn't flip. And last point, every state.
How many last points you got to do?
I got this.
Don't begin. She just talked about how y'all were sitting there yapping for 26 minutes, and now she's finally getting something to say. And you're mad because it's only four and a half minutes. Relax, Van Jones. We all know you're going to say some nonsense anyway. You were on the brink of tears when you saw how incompetent Biden was, to try to act like this is some newfound information when we all knew he was not there. But no, she made a really good point before she gets. I let her finish talking about how Americans have had enough of being, pigeonholed and told that they're racist, xenophobic, misogynist, homophobic, every single buzzword you can think of on the planet, solely because they want to see gas prices go down. They want to see grocery prices go down. They want to have the border be secure. They want to feel safe, and they want to be prosperous in a country that literally prides itself on being the greatest nation on earth, because we were. I mean, make America great again is a statement because we were previously great. Things were going very well for a lot of people. Even if you're middle class, even if you're impoverished, you're living better than people all over the world. Now we're turning some of these places into like third world countries in the way that it seemed that the direction we were going. And so it's like, Americans are like, no, we're not doing that. We're not going down that path again. We need to see change. and Trump has promised that, and he delivered on that in his own term. We were just blinded by the propaganda that was spewed. You have Anna Kasparian even saying in the previous thing, she didn't acknowledge that he had done a really good job with the border because of all this stuff that's been spewed about him. They refused to look at him in any positive light whatsoever and acknowledge the good things he did because of what was told in the media. And media has lost its influence on the American people. These other platforms, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Aiden Ross, like all these people that interviewed him and gave him a voice and so they could hear his perspective, Andrew Schultz, that is what shaped this election cycle. That is what got Trump into the presidency, and we are so grateful for it. And Americans, like I said, had enough. Like Kellyanne Conway, we don't care about the name calling anymore. It means nothing to us. Goodbye, have a good day. January 20th will be an amazing, amazing day for our country.
Well, they're all good ones.
They are
I'm
great.
not here spinning. They're really great
They are
points, and I'm not here
Jones.
spinning and pretending that this election, a lot of this conversation, respectfully, sounds like the election didn't happen yet. We've talked about the same stuff over and over again. The fact is this. I said it a year ago, I'll say it again because it was just raised. The Democratic Party right now, every day they wake up, it's still January 6, 2021 on the calendar, they get an electric vehicle, they get an abortion. You're out of touch with the public. This election was a rejection of wokeness, and people, every state went more red except Nebraska and Washington State. That is a sweep. That is a mandate. That is President Trump coming into office and the American people saying, please make my life safer, more secure, more affordable. Please get us out of these foreign engagements. And I think the always wrong, never Trumpers who had unlimited money cost the Democratic Party, which they say they're not even a member, another presidential election.
That is a bar. That is a bar. Kellyanne Conway, man, she really just encapsulated everything that we were thinking and everything that we experienced and what the American people wanted to see change and how we were willing to just say, screw it, we don't care anymore. We saw all these people coming out with Bryce Hall with a MAGA hat on. We see Taylor Holder, another like I don't know if it's TikTok hype house. You know, the guys from 2020, they were like doing all the weird dances. They're all coming out in support of Trump. You have all these people that I don't even care anymore. Corinna Koff, they're like, I do not care. Stop trying to ruin my life. Logan Paul didn't publicly come out, but we all know he supported him. Jake Paul came out and supported him with an 18-minute video explaining why he is the better option. He said, I don't even have skin in the game. My life won't be affected one way or the other because I'm like a multi-millionaire, but y'all, this is not good for our country. So it's amazing. I mean, obviously his life will be affected better because Trump's not gonna like screw him over and try and tax him 20 to 100x because he worked hard to attain his wealth. But she made a really good point also where the Dems have not, they haven't gotten it. They're still focused on January 6th. They're still focused on all their woke talking points that America is over it. They don't care anymore. They have no influence on the people that want to just live a better life individually. They realize that, hey, being accepted by people online means absolutely nothing to me because it doesn't affect my personal life. It doesn't help my family. It doesn't help my children. As a matter of fact, it's doing harm to them because you're trying to indoctrinate them in their schools. You're trying to force them to believe something that I wanted to support, but I don't really care and to apply in my own life. So people are done. They gave up. It was a done deal, especially when we started coming for the kids. And now we got what we got, and we're super grateful for it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, comment down your thoughts below. I really want to hear them or read them, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.